Hi, it's Clay Dixon. We're just excited to bring you another fishing technique. Today we're going to talk about pitching, P-I-T-C-H-I-N, pitching. And the whole purpose of pitching a lure is number one, to have a low entry point of that lure so it doesn't make a lot of noise as it enters the water, so you don't make a big splash and spook a fish, for example, which could easily happen even in this is a creek channel here. It's not that deep. It probably drops off about 8 or 10 foot. But if these fish are suspended up around the top of them, you could spook them. If you're fishing shallower water, you absolutely could spook them. So the whole idea is a low entry point so that the lure sets down in the water without making a big splash. Second thing is, allows you to get up underneath limbs and things that you couldn't normally do with a typical overhand cast. Now, what we're talking about on flipping is generally you're looking at a heavier lure that you're using. You could do it with a 1/4 ounce lure, but to be honest, it's pretty difficult. You need some lures that are more in the the 3/8, maybe up to a 1/2 ounce to really effectively do it, at least for most of us. I've got a flipping stick that I'm using here, but they make pitching sticks. I've got one. I just don't have it in the boat with me today. You can use any fishing rod at all. It needs to be at least 6.5 foot, preferably at least 7 foot. And the whole idea is that I want to pull off about as much line as it takes me to get to the end of either to the reel if you're comfortable there. Once you're comfortable, you can pull off a little bit more. You can come all the way down to the reel handle. I'm going to go ahead and take off enough line to where I am holding this lure at about where my reel is. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to pick out some cover over here. Hopefully you can see some logs growing up that are coming on the creek channel right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this lure in my left hand. Now, from a safety standpoint, make sure you hold the lure behind the hook, not in front of the hook, okay? Behind the hook. I'm going to press my button so that my reel is in free spool, and as I swing the lure out, I'm going to raise my rod tip as the line is going out so that I can increase my distance, but at the same time I can feather the entry of that lure. So if I want to flip it over to here, for example, I've got this amount of line out down to my reel. I'm going to sling it just like that, but I'm going to let go of the lure, and I can throw it out there, in that case, about 15 feet or so. You can throw it a lot further once you get good at it. So what that does is I'm going to bring it up, I'm going to grab it behind the hook, I'm going to push my button so it's in free spool, I'm going to pick out my target out there, I'm going to sling it back in a nice quiet entry so it won't spook that fish. So that's one way you can learn to pitch. The other pitching technique is where you don't grab the lure, where it's not necessary. Instead, you're just going to reel it up and flip it underhanded like that, and you do it all in one motion. So as you're reeling, and you get just about that same amount of line, or maybe a little bit less, that's still out in the water, you simply pick up your rod tip like this, swing it to you, and swing it way out there. I don't know if you can catch that on the tape or not. I hope you can. I'm going to reel it in. I'm going to get just about that same amount of line, push my button, low entry, nice and quiet. If you can see that on there, you'd know I don't think it even made hardly a splash. Reel it in, free spool it out. Now this is different than, flipping, because I can, first of all, I'm a much further distance away. And this allows me to work the lure much, much faster. I'm not really dissecting the, each piece of cover per se. All I'm really doing is covering a lot of water as fast as I can, but doing it very effectively. So once you get good, reel it in, click your button, swing it, underhand it, boom, right back in the water. Make a lot more casts during the day. They're nice and quiet, and you can be extremely accurate with it. We call that pitching. Go practice both techniques. Start with the one where you hold it in your hand. That's the easiest. And then after you get a little more experience, you get comfortable with it, get to where you can reel it in, push your button, slip it right in that water. Look at that. That thing didn't even make a ripple. So hope that helps. Thanks. Until next time.